Thank you. Further tribute, the member from Barrie.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I'm honoured today to rise to recognize the contributions made by a former member of this House, someone who truly dedicated his life to his community and to giving back through public services. Speaker, I'm pleased to rise today to pay tribute to George McCague. In preparing for this, I reached out to many of George's friends and former colleagues. During my conversations, one thing became clear. George was deeply loved and admired by his friends and his family. He was a pragmatic person and someone who knew his strengths and helped others realize theirs. One of those close friends I spoke to was Dan Needles. Dan worked for George as his executive assistant for 5 years until 1981. During our conversation, Dan described George as a man of few words who thought extremely carefully before saying anything. When solving issues, George would listen to all sides and synthesize complex issues to their simplest elements. That was his gift, bringing people together through consensus and solving those difficult problems. George was born in Essa Township, not far from my home in Barrie. Even from a young age, he was dedicated to his community. He joined the junior farmers, and as one friend told me, he joined every group he could find. After returning from school in Guelph, he entered public service as a councillor at Alliston in 1960. By 1969, he had served as Deputy Reeve, a public schools board member, Simcoe County Warden, and then as Mayor of Alliston. In 1967, he was also appointed as the first chairman of Georgian College in Barrie, and we thank him for that. In 1975, he was elected as a member for Dufferin-Simcoe. He served 15 years here at Queen's Park, holding portfolios in government services, the environment, transportation and communications, and chair of the management board of the cabinet. George brought his judiciousness to Queen's Park, as he consistently was a consensus builder. Linda Collins, former mayor of Springwater, told me that George McCague represented his riding well, mindful of all the people. He visited farmers at the farm and was very responsive to any questions from his constituents. He served with great distinction and credibility. His long-standing record speaks to the trust bestowed upon him. He had many friends from all political parties, with one of his close being Liberal member and agricultural critic Murray Gaunt. In the Legislature, they passionately debated the issues of the day, but once the House rose, they often went fishing on fishing trips. Dan Needles told me that George once described public service to him as a long meeting with the odd fishing trip. George retired from Queen's Park in 1990, but he wasn't done yet. He returned to municipal politics and became the first elected mayor of the newly amalgamated town of New Tecumseh in 1992. I spoke to former New Tecumseh Mayor Mike McCague about George's local contributions. He described George as a community builder and a champion of the community. George had a quiet way of commanding a meeting. He would immediately display leadership and was an expert at steering past distractions and diving right into the heart of a matter. Mike also told me that George would often tell him to never, quote, never ask a question you already don't know the answer to. I think he said this because he understood the importance of truly understanding all the issues. After retiring from public service, he continued to chair the New Tecumseh Improvement Society. He also loved to give back. He was a driver for cancer patients and continued volunteering into his retirement. At his funeral last year, the leaflets contained a passage from Peter 4:10-19. It read, "Like good stewards of the manifold grace of God, serve one another with whatever gift each of you has received." George knew that his gift was the ability to build consensus and solve difficult issues, but he went further than that. He helped others see their gifts and would consistently remind friends and colleagues of their strengths. George was a remarkable man who truly made his community, province, and country a better place. Thank you, George.